I'm Stephanie. I'm a drug addict.
Hello, my name is Matt, and I'm a very grateful recovering alcoholic drug addict.
At 14 years old, I started out with marijuana.
My freshman year in high school, I tried a marijuana one time.
At 16, I tried acid.
My history started off in 1990 with the use of heroin.
Tried cocaine.
I started using drugs when I was about 15 years old.
I'm 30 right now. I started drugs when I was 15.
I'm currently incarcerated at Choice Moore for possession of marijuana and a DWI.
1984, I found out what crack cocaine was. I was introduced to it while I was dealing powder.
I don't know how I fell off track so easily, but, you know, the neighbors are smoking pot one day, and years of my life, ever since I was 13 up until the time I was 32.
Drugs are a living nightmare, especially crack cocaine. You always have a cry inside you, a craving that's telling you want more and more and more.
My drug of choice is just about any drugs I get my hand on.
Totally berserk.
When I used drugs, I always felt like it made me feel like that I was a whole person.
A fact of life is I went through $28,000 in 8 months. I stole, I swindled, I spent everything I had in the bank.
I supported my habit real well. I dropped out of school.
I had always felt different. Even from childhood, I felt like there was always something a little bit different about me.
The first time I ever used drugs, I didn't even know I was using drugs.
I fell into the wrong crowd, and
they were passing around what we didn't know. I thought it was a cigarette or something, but it came to the back, and me and my brothers hit it just once, and then he said, "Here, chase it with this," and he passed a beer can to the back, and me and my brothers took a chug of beer.
It seemed like anything that I tried to do that was right, you know, I never got any praise for it.
I felt like that I wasn't quite right. There was always a sense of wrongness, and when I picked up the drugs, all that disappeared, and I automatically just felt like everything was right with me in the world.
I've never met anybody that smoked a joint that just stopped with pot.
13, 14, by the time I was 15, it was get drunk every weekend. By the time I was 16 or 17, I was skipping school to go to the beer store.
Once you're in that avenue, then you're into all sorts of other drugs like LSD, you know, hash, go right hand in hand because it's another product of marijuana.
I used to watch those films that they'd show us in high school about, oh, you shouldn't smoke pot because you'd end up a heroin addict, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, that's not true, you know, a little bit of smoke's not going to hurt you. But in my case, that's exactly where it led.
I was a pretty good running back. I averaged over 1,000 yards each competitive years that I was there. From that point on, I was recruited by the New Orleans Saints.
It makes you think you are powerful, you are strong, that you can do anything, that you are above the law. I thought that.
The first year that I played with the New Orleans Saints, I was on the bench. I was called as an extra. I mean, if another player got hurt, or two players, actually I had to wait. I was a third string backup. You know, so some of the traveling games I couldn't go because they didn't need me. But on the same token, I was at the house. You know, I thought I could maintain getting high, but yet still I saw my ability, you know, performing that I thought I was doing great.
And by the time I was 18 or 19 years old, you know, it was every day after work or after when I was attending college. It was as soon as classes let out, go to the beer store.
I didn't, when I began using drugs, I didn't think I was going to become an addict. I didn't plan to become an addict, and I didn't want to. I had ambitions and dreams when I was younger, and I fully intended to achieve those dreams.
And I got introduced to rock, crack cocaine. And it was more of, hey, I like this high. Yeah, it made me feel light, made me feel good. I said, well, this is my drug of choice.
Twisted thinking.
I started out using pot and marijuana. I ended up being addicted to heroin for the last 8 years of my using.
I've been hearing on the news that heroin's coming back into the scene. Through the use of heroin, I contracted HIV. Right now, my health is very poor. The doctors give me 6 months to a year to live.
Addiction is an issue that is in society that comes from functional families and dysfunctional families.
It was a turn in my life, in a day in my life that I'll never forget, because it broke my marriage up. It took my kids from me. I lost everything I had. All the money that I'd made dealing drugs, I smoked it up within a year.
You don't even realize that you're doing how bad the thing you're doing and who you're doing it to and what you're causing to other people.
See, when you deal drugs, you got money and you got drugs, and then you got friends, which, you know, when you're using, you call friends. But when you know, if you get locked up like I do, hopefully you'll come to find out and understand that they weren't really your friends at all. They were just, so to speak, riding your coattails and looking for that free buzz. And
to you, you know, you're a big man.
But actually, I was not.
I've had several close encounters with death, totaling out vehicles.
My health today, I have pancreatitis, swollen liver, heart valve problem. Matter of fact, remind me to take my heart medication.
And it was the heroin. I was very sick. At the end of those 9 years, I was at the point where I didn't think I could ever get off drugs.
I've tried and tried, you know, on my own and through the help of my probation officer and other people, my family, to try to get off drugs. And
I didn't expect to. I thought I was going to just die that way.
Pneumonia in one lung. They say that my lymph nodes are decayed. And I have a lump in one heart that they want to do a biopsy on.
I'm 46 years old. I used for 23 years. It totally devastated my life.
I got picked up by Philadelphia Eagles, and
I was scared.
And prior to me getting high that night before, I didn't get into sleep.
But when you're all high on drugs, you really don't realize that.
I should have been at home with my wife and 2 kids.
You're all high and you think you're having fun and you got to smoke a joint to go to the movies. You got to shoot your cocaine and do your little old heroin.
Then I turned back around, and final day of cut, and I just knew that I had it.
And I'm saying, wait a minute, that's me. That's me.
I was able to get to practice through my drills and my agilities.
Little did I know drugs stay in your brain for 2 years.
The night before, I ended up, getting high of my drug control and crack.
Try to have some fun.
Behold, when practice was over, I got cut.
And you got to dig your way back out. And it ain't easy.
I lost my job because of crack.
And look at the consequences.
Nobody cut me but crack and I. Not only that, I lost my family, my job, and the only thing I have to do now is try to get back up on top.
The bottom line is you think you're having fun, but until you really, really know how to stay clean and you get a good look at people doing what they're doing, you know that they're not having fun. You know you weren't having fun.
Most of the years of my drug addiction were productive years. I worked, I married, I had a family, I raised my child.
because when you're on drugs and alcohol, you become a master at deception.
From the outside, my life looked okay. It didn't, I wasn't the kind of drug addict most of the years that was on the street and stealing and so forth. I seemed to be a normal person. On the inside, I wasn't.
I lost my kids. My kids, right now, I haven't seen them in years. And it hurts inside. It's an empty feeling knowing that I have 2 beautiful daughters out there from my wife that I haven't seen in 4 years.
A lot of my friends have ended up in jail. I have a sister that's been in jail 4 times. She's 43 years old, and she's in prison at this time, and it was all over 2 drug charges in 1982. She hasn't been convicted of any other crimes since that time, but she has not been able to manage to get or stay off drugs, so therefore she violates her parole and ends up in prison over and over again.
They said that the alcohol played a big role in a lot of my health problems. I'm trying to cut down. It's hard.
I was at the point where I didn't think I could ever get off drugs. I didn't expect to. I thought I was going to just die that way. And that was my biggest fear, was having to live even another minute in that condition. I wasn't really afraid of dying. I was afraid of living and being an addict.
Now I have a life again. I have money. I have friends. I have family back. And I even have my girl back. But it's only conditional. And that condition is if I stay off drugs.
Money for no.
So tell me how you've been doing since our last interview.
Rock and rolling, dude.
I'm gonna run through the store.
Good time, so I figured I'd go see him.
It's going to be an everyday battle for the rest of my life.
You been staying out of trouble?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not bragging about it. Yeah, you can make a lot of money on selling drugs, but I'm going to tell you what, just by the laws of nature, you're going to lose it. You won't keep the money, and you won't keep anything you have that you've made illegally. I have to keep my life straight, and I know one thing, that all these people mean more to me than drugs do. The things that I could have in this world, the happiness that I used to have means more to me than the loneliness and the hell that I went through on drugs. And everybody that's in jail right now because of drugs, I'm glad they're there. It did me a lot of good. It made me think. It brought my health back, brought my senses back. The only thing I can say is I wish
there was a way it could all stop. I've already been told by more than one person in the system that if I do come back, that I'll die in white. That's a scary thought, a very, very scary thought. I know this is not where I want to live the rest of my life. I know that this is not how I want to live the rest of my life. At one time, I even cried out to my parole officer, asked her if she would get me into rehab, which didn't get much help on that end of the deal, and was asked to go through certain steps that only a drug addict would know, that once you're on them, you're not going to go out of the way to, or go through, let's say, the hassles of the steps they wanted you to go through to get help. You're more interested in running down the drugs and doing your thing than you are, even though you know you need help, and there's something crying inside you that you need the help, and you know it. That it's back to that voice that says it's okay, you're going to be all right. I knew a voice kept telling me in my head that you're going back to prison if you keep doing what you're doing. You're heading down that road again. But the other voice said it's okay. You're going to be able to get away with it. You can do more. Just go and keep doing what you're doing. And well, we know what voice won out on that one. I had been with a partner, a girl, and I had been doing drugs, and I came out of the building, and police just happened to be rolling down the street when I tossed a beer into the bushes, and they stopped me, and they were asking me questions about who I was and what I'd been doing, and I'm sure they could see I was high. and they knew who I was. They had known my activities around the neighborhood and people who I hung out with. I told them a false name, and they didn't believe me, so they were going to take me in to have me fingerprinted, and the only thing I could think of at the time, the only thought that went through my head was I didn't want to go back to jail. I look at that film today, which is something that I'm probably going to show myself once a week from the rest of my life, just to see where I was and remember where I've been. Watch this interview that I'm doing today and remember where I've been. I think that's been a big problem of coming back is once I got out, I put it all behind me. I didn't want to remember the things that I'd been through. I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is I can take it a day at a time. That's another thing that AANA has taught me, that it's a day at a time. If I can make it tomorrow, sober, then I'll try and make it the next day. And that's the best I can do.
Hi, my name is Tony. Drugs, the abuse of the behavior, what people go through, as well as myself. I once used to be a football player. Got drafted by the New Orleans Saints, got cut. I thought I got cut because of politics or the shade of my color. It was incorrect. I got cut because I was doing some cocaine.
Don't ever take that first hit on that joint, because it will lead to worse and more damaging things.
If you say no to them and they become angry, then you know was the right thing to say.
You know, the only way you can break it is to be taken out of society for a couple of years at least, and have time to, you know, get some spirituality about you, get a physical fitness program.
A controlled environment in a medical situation is really good when you're detoxing off drugs, you know, especially the heroin and the cocaine, those types of drugs.
You have to think of positive. You have to be positive within yourself first.
There's a better way, and there is a way out, but you gotta want it.
Twisted behavior. You get drugs, toxins into your body, into your brain. It takes your brain receptors 2 years to even clean out.
And the kid very well eventually leads to jails, institutions, or death.
I mean, we all go through a lot of negative stuff, and now it's time to live positive in our life. And it's really good to, you know, pick up a book and read. You know, something positive that you can understand, you can relate within yourself. Anything that's going to give you a negative vibe, leave it alone.
Drugs and alcohol is what did this to me, and I'll beg and plead of you, you know, not to use drugs and alcohol.
Stay away from the people that are in that situation. Just stay away.
If you've never tried drugs, don't do it. Don't do it.
When it gets into your bones, into your muscle, your flesh, your marrow, it takes longer than that for your system to even get clean.
I think treatment centers are very helpful. I think the main reason they're helpful is it's just people can dry out in the treatment centers.
Tough love.
I love my family. I love every member of my family.
Nobody can do it for you. The only one that can do it is yourself.
When you start thinking positive things happen to you.
Through AA and NA, I took my problem to the group, and I opened up, and I got it off my chest.
And try to crack down on that before there's more people like me. Ask.
It's a lot of work to stay clean.
I don't think it's a total answer. I think that if you go into treatment, you just don't go to treatment and then you're fixed, you're well.
It took coming to prison for me to be able to see, you know, the person I was and what I was doing to myself, and that I was slowly committing suicide through drugs and alcohol.
They don't have to take that hit off that joint to be accepted.
It's always good to, you know, enhance yourself. It's working out, go to the gym, go play basketball, find yourself to an amusement park or a movie somewhere that you're not sitting in a room getting high.
Give up, just surrender and be willing to listen to some other points of view.
Rebuild. It's not easy when you're smoking out of the pipe and consider yourself, I'm all right, I'm not bad, but you are bad. There's millions of people die every day, and I'm one of the lucky ones that lived to see this day.
I've been on this unit for 18 months, and I attend a meeting every time they open the doors for AA, NA, and SOS, and I feel that my chances are better than others that would still like to change but won't take the time to go to a meeting. If I take everything that I've learned in the last 18 months about my disease and recovery, and I take it out in the world with me, and I use it and I apply it in my life, then I feel that I have a very, very good chance of staying sober and living the so-called normal life.
Problem, lucky I'm alive. You still don't know how to stay clean.
I still have an alcohol addiction, yes.
When you develop a trend of doing the same thing with the same people for 20 years, you're hard-headed.
There's a fine line between helping someone out and enabling them to continue their drug use.
I'm still not through with the legal problems.
Generally, when you go to prison, a lot of people in there, their parents dealt drugs, they did drugs, they grew up doing drugs. They don't even know what a real life's about.
I feel that God has spared me for some reason, to give me another chance, so I have some kind of purpose in life.
Your looks begin to look tarnished, and that's not a good look.
It's something that's going to haunt me for the rest of my life.
Society as a group does not care about you anymore.
You go back out into society, you still don't know how to stay clean.
I won't ever go any farther.
I went through this program, and it was 13 months worth, and it was an $80,000 program, and I was scared.
Some people say that they don't have to have God to get clean. I'm not going to say that I don't. Well, yeah, I am too. I'm going to say I don't believe that's true. I think that is really the ultimate answer. Is we have to have a spiritual and moral awareness to begin to change.
And you got to dig your way back out, and it ain't easy.
And then we have to make a day-to-day effort to continue that change.
Everybody wants to help somebody, but the bottom line is half the programs in society today, it's a money thing. We create beds here, and we can make this much money, and we pull in these counselors, and they have trouble keeping counselors. They can't even keep them through programs.
What it's all boiled down to is spiritual principles.
We have to learn why we do what we do and how to stop doing it. And you don't recognize these behaviors until you actually, I didn't. I honestly think a lot of people don't. It's just a way of life after so many years.
I've been taught that our disease is a mental, physical, and spiritual disease, and I believe that with all my heart.
Lo and behold, you get a grip on the reality of really what life is about and what life's purpose is about.
I have a spiritual part of me, for a long, long time I didn't believe in God. I believe in God today.
Reformed for years.
I also believe that God is what keeps me clean.
Day by day.
On a daily basis. Without God, I wouldn't be able to. And I just, I believe that with all my heart.
We admitted that we were powerless over alcohol, that our life had become unmanageable.
We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him.
We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. We humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. We made a list of all persons we had harmed.
That we had harmed and directly try and make amends to them. Made direct amends to such people whenever possible. Continued to take personal inventory.
And when we were wrong, promptly admitted it.
Sought through prayer and meditation.
To improve our conscious contact with God.
To improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him. Praying only for the knowledge of His will and for the power to carry that out. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps.
As a result of these steps, we tried to carry that message to the alcoholic and practice these principles in all our affairs.